ka ba sa channel na to? Huwag kalimutang mag-subscribe at i-hit ang notification bell para ma-update kayo sa mga upcoming videos ko. Maraming salamat mga sir.
Good evening, guys. We're now again back with a special episode. Alam naman natin na malapit na yung Pilipinas Vismin Super Cup. Pero time out muna tayo doon. Let's talk about NBA. All about NBA muna. And meron kaming special guest sa inyo. I think this is a no introduction needed. NBA insider, Mr. Naveen Ganglani. How are you
Hey,
po?
thank you. I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it a lot. It's a pleasure to be here and talk with you guys. Yeah, I'm excited to get this started.
Okay, thank you. And you already know me. I'm your ultimate bolero from Bolero's Lifestyle. Bolero's Nation, what's up?
IMD Sports TV, kamusta kayo mga kabalero?
Magandang gabi, ako nga pala si Kino ng From the Sideline.
Good evening, this is Nash, Basketball TV.
Hey, what's up sa inyo mga katatak? This is Sports Icon PH.
Alright, so before tayo magpunta sa mga topics natin sa NBA for our viewers, let's back to the journey of Mr. Naveen. Paano pala kayo nag-start bilang NBA insider sa Rappler?
So my media career started back in college. I went to De La Salle University. ID 109, batch 2013, psychology graduate. While I was in La Salle, I was a sports writer for the La Sallian, which is the official school newspaper of the LSU. I was a sports reporter, so I was covering UAAP. Then after college, I had my first job at Solar Entertainment Corporation. Do you guys remember yung basketball TV, Solar Sports, NBA Premium TV?
Yes,
So
of
yes.
course.
yes. So my first full-time media gig was writing for those websites, those three websites. So like ako lang dating nag-upload ng schedules for like, you know, when people would go to the website, check the schedule of basketball TV, which games are being played, this and that. So I was still in charge of that. I also would write content. I'd come up with articles. Then sometime in 2014, I started at Rappler first as a contributor, like as a per article basis contributor. And then a few months after joining them, I became a full-time sports reporter. I covered PBA, UAP, NBA, FIBA, volleyball, some football, some tennis. So it was like being a sports beat, you know, like covering the events, going to the games, interviews. And then after I left the full-time beat, I became like a contributor slash columnist for Rappler. So I've been writing columns and features for them since 2014. But as just like as a feature writer, I've been writing with them for 2017, and then last year 2020, I started my first podcast with Rappler. It's called At the Buzzer, a Rappler sports podcast. And then I also host an online show for Rappler Sports called Sports Rap. So if anyone's listening, I hope you guys can check that out. And also, if you can check out the podcast, it's At the Buzzer. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. It's also on the website. So if you're free, I've done interviews with, like, my recent interview was with Jamie Malonzo, number 2 overall pick of the PBA draft. So that was a fun conversation. If you guys want to know more about Jamie and one of the future stars of the PBA, do check that out. And if you check my social media profiles, that's at Naveen Ganglani on Twitter and at ByNavG on Instagram. You'll see some of the interviews I do with NBA players sometimes, nowadays via Zoom. And I also write about NBA features, articles for Rappler. So yeah, it's been a long media career. I mean, it's so weird because diba 7 years pa lang 2014, but it feels like it's been a lot. I've managed to interview some players. You know, I was fortunate enough to interview Kobe Bryant one time in LA in his last season. May he rest in peace. God bless Kobe. And also I also write sometimes for Rappler's technology section, video gaming in under PlayStation 5. And I used to write also entertainment lifestyle. So I've meddled in like a number of writing gigs. But my main beat is sports.
So guys, even though Mr. Naveen is young, he has quite a vast experience with regard to basketballs. It seems like eat, breathe basketball, then sleep. So guys, everything he's like a search engine, Google search engine for basketball, sir. So let's proceed now with some of our NBA topics. I do think that will be interesting. It will be a roundtable thing. So
Mm-hmm.
fir- first is we'll go to NBA contenders. Let's go for the
Okay.
Eastern Conference. Let me start it. Let me begin it with obviously barring injuries it will be the Brooklyn Nets for me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because they actually have kompleto yung lineup nila. They're complete from 1 to 5 and then meron silang enough power um, punch off the bench. However, as I've said, barring injuries and yung mga nakuha nila, na-sign nila like si LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin, it's a championship or bust for them because they are in the finishing leg of their career. So that's my point of view with regard to my contender for the Eastern Conference.
Mm-hmm. So for the Eastern Conference, are you asking me which one team I think will should be the favorite, or are you asking me like which teams I think could make a run for the Eastern Championship?
Oh, the favorites.
The
The
favorite.
favorite.
So
Yep.
so more than one, right? Just to get that straight.
If that's the case, but for
Okay, well, I agree with you that I think Brooklyn is the favorite. I just think that a superstar trio of that caliber, KD, Kyrie, and Harden, is very, very good. And history has shown us that teams that stack up superstars, especially big threes, they tend to do well in the playoffs when it becomes a possession battle, and you'd rather have like superstars, diba, making plays for you. Um, but I also give a shot to teams like Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and of course the Miami Heat, the team that I like watching the most. I give them also a shot to win the East potentially. I think Brooklyn again, like I said, they should be the favorites just because they're so loaded, but they're not without weakness, diba? The Nets to me, they're not like a team that's invincible because they're really good offensively, but there's still questions about their defense. I think that if you have a very good big man, you could give yourself a chance against them just because if you can control the physicality of the game, you can control the rebounding, you can control points in the paint, you're going to give yourself a chance against them. And so let's look at it one by one. Diba? Philadelphia, they have Joel Embiid, who's a big guy, who's a great rebounder, great scorer in the post. And I honestly don't think Brooklyn has anyone who can really guard him. So they also have a Ben Simmons. They have a big lineup because Danny Green, Tobias Harris, Matisse Thybulle, all these guys, they're long, they're tall, they can defend. So I would give Philadelphia a shot against Brooklyn. I also I give Milwaukee a shot against Brooklyn because I think Giannis is another big guy who could score. I think Drew Holiday makes them better. And I think defensively they could see they have three guys, right? They have Drew, they have Middleton, and they have Giannis. Three guys who can really defend well. So that's something you can throw at the Nets. You can force them to say, okay, we will need the role players to step up, right? And sometimes who knows in the playoffs which role players will step up. Then Miami, I also give them a chance because of their latest upgrades. I think that if you look at their best defensive lineup, they have Bam Adebayo, they have Trevor Ariza, Andre Iguodala, they have Victor Oladipo, Jimmy Butler. Those are five guys who can defend really well. And those five guys, the thing they do really well on defense is switching. And in the NBA now, if you have a defense that can switch really well during the pick and roll, then you give yourself a good chance to win. So the question with Miami for me is, do they get enough offense, right? Like, will getting Oladipo help their offense enough where they can compete against Brooklyn, who we know will really score? And that's when you need guys like Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson to step up.
And what can you say about the addition of Victor Oladipo? Will it have a additional offensive punch?
Yeah, for sure. What's interesting about Oladipo is that he is a good scorer. He's not an efficient scorer, so he's not gonna shoot like 50% from the field most games. But I think where he can really help Miami is when it comes to playmaking. Sorry, when it comes to playmaking, and what I mean by that is, diba, you have like shooters like Hero, you have shooters like Duncan spreading the floor. So if you have like another guy who can like attack the paint and then draw a defender, kick it out to an open guy for 3-point shots, that just adds to your offensive versatility, and that also will help guys like Jimmy and Bam, because now Jimmy and Bam, they won't feel responsible to set up their teammates. Now they have another guy who can kind of help set them up for scoring opportunities.
That's good. It's another added playmaker, and it would actually take a load off the star players like Jimmy
Mm-mm.
and Bam Adebayo. I agree on 100% on that. How about
Mm-hmm.
you guys? Any point of views with regard to the contenders?
Ako, I agree with Naveen nung sinabi niyo yung Milwaukee Bucks. Actually, yung pinag-uusapan natin to yesterday offline, many of you guys told us that yun nga, tingin nyo, pretender itong Milwaukee Bucks. Pero with the trio nila Middleton, si Antetokounmpo, and Jrue Holiday, sa tingin ko talaga is malayo mararating nito. And given they're standing right now, I think pangilan ba sila sa standings? Third?
Third, I think it's their third
So
in the
with
Eastern.
that standings, and given top-rated offense din sila in defense, yeah, good opportunity for them to win the championship right now. Given lang na maging healthy si Antetokounmpo, kasi recently I think nagkakameron siya ng issue sa knee. So I think that would be a significant I hope na hindi siya maging significant injury para mas malayo marating nila sa playoffs.
Sa akin, contender, agree din ako kay Sir Naveen. Pero dito sa Philadelphia 76ers. So, para sa akin, medyo gutom yung team na to, no? For the last 3 years, lagi sila nga na-eliminate, lalo na nung last year dahil na-sweep sila ng Boston Celtics. Pero ngayon, may addition nga sila, si Donnie Green, na may experience na yan sa finals. So, I think Philadelphia, contender to.
Para sa akin naman, dun tayo sa underdog. Siyempre yung former Eastern Conference champion, Miami Heat. So maganda yung mga addition nila ngayon, yung trade deadline, and then yung may mga nadagdag nila. Gaya nga nung sinabi ni Sir Naveen, yun nga, ito yung dalawa nilang shooter, si Tyler Hero and then si Duncan Robinson. So tingin ko magiging magandang complement uli yung playoff run nila sa this playoffs. Then yung depensa din ni Bam Adebayo at ni Jimmy Butler, then yung addition nga nitong si Victor Oladipo.
For me, in terms of Eastern Conference, I'll go with Brooklyn Nets. Kasi why Brooklyn Nets? You have Kevin Durant. Imagine Kevin Durant for me, dun sa championship series nila with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think nakatatlo sila. Correct me if I'm wrong, no? Pero dun sa dalawa doon, nandun si Durant, right? And isa wala si Durant. So, sa akin iba kwento ron eh. Let's say walang Durant sa sa finals nung last 2 championships nila, kasi a lot of games in that series, alam natin bailout lagi si Kevin Durant, no? On that series aminado ako, Cleveland Cavaliers ako that time kasi LeBron James and Kyrie Irving. Pero yung Durant talaga pumapatay eh. Andiyan na eh, Cleveland, may mga games na gano'n. So Cleveland na talaga. Tapos biglang parang merong agimat tong si Kevin Durant, lagi siyang bumabanat sa huli. Then isama mo pa, you have Kyrie Irving. Alam din natin na yung championship nila, ang laki. Sobrang laki ng part na ginawa niya sa Cleveland Cavaliers, na yun na rin yung naging, I don't know if it's official, pero yun yung reason kung bakit din siya lumipat ng Boston or whatever team. Kasi nga ang laki ng binigay niya sa Cleveland pero yung yung what do you call this, yung papuri, yung gano'n, yung recognition, lahat LeBron James eh. So parang na-feel niya na ang laki ng hirap ko tapos LeBron James all the way. Then you have James Harden. Although James Harden for me not yet proven pagdating sa playoffs kasi meron akong mga nakikitang lapses sa kanya dun sa mga previous niya dun sa Houston Rockets, pero iba kasi yung team pag solid na eh. Meron ka ng dalawang nakatikim ng championship. So yung load, yung pressure hindi ganun kalaki kasi nga andun si Kyrie, andun si Irving. And then plus idagdag mo pa si LaMarcus Aldridge na galing yan kay Greg Popovich. So yung sistema. So I think LaMarcus Aldridge can complement well with the Brooklyn Nets kasi hindi niya kailangan ng maraming touches ng bola. Popwesto lang siya. Siguro yung low post niya is patak-patak lang yun sa play and then emergency play lang yun pag wala na silang mapuntahan. Then you have Blake Griffin na not as athletic gaya ng dati pero kung susundan niyo yung niya, yung career niya ngayon, more on na siya yung mautak na siya maglaro pagdating sa court. So for me yon Brooklyn Nets ako. Kung kompleto and healthy yung mga players nila.
So again, sa mga we do have all our favorites and sa mga fans, I know na again disclaimer lang, it's our own point of view, so mababash or may kaaran man ng positive or negative comments. We do actually are expressing our point of views here. So magaganda lahat. Let's just watch the playoffs. It will be an exciting one. And let's go now to the pretenders of the East. Again, this might be controversial, but for me, it will be the Milwaukee Bucks. Sa playoffs, alam natin, sumisikip yung laro. Nagiging from transition, nagiging half-court game ang lahat. And until magkaroon ng playmaking skills talaga si Giannis, he can actually pass off the double team. I know na addition ni Drew Holiday, it would add a punch, pero until proven sa playoffs na kaya ni Giannis na mag-take over ng game as a playmaker, as a passer, until that, they would still be a pretender for me. Even though they would be amazing in the regular season, but in the playoffs, doon na-prove yung mga star players and grown men will appear in the playoffs.
Sa akin naman, short answer lang, for me, Boston Celtics. Yes, magaling si Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. But unfortunately, I think yung bench nila questionable. And as well as the big man. I think very important din sa playoffs ang bench. Especially na alam naman natin yung firepower talagang doon lalabas pag playoffs na eh. Doon talaga papakita ng team kung hanggang saan sila aabot. And I don't think Boston Celtics have the scoring power at saka strength sa kanilang bench.
Yeah, I guess it kind of depends what pretender means. Like, are we talking about like a contender who will surely go below expectations or perform below expectations? But for me, the East is so interesting this season because it's kind of divided for me. Like, you've got the top 3 teams right now: Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Milwaukee. Then you have like this long race 4 to 10. You have Miami, you have Boston, you have Indiana, Chicago, Charlotte, the New York Knicks, all these teams, diba? Personally, I would elevate Miami above all of them because for me, the reason why Miami's record is the way it is because Jimmy Butler missed so much time when he got hit with COVID, and they've had plenty of injuries. So I kind of put Miami in that tier with Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Brooklyn. Boston, I would like to put them sana with the rest of the squads up there, but I feel like Boston they made some mistakes in terms of roster construction. Like you were right, no. Tatum is really good, Brown is really good, but I think they still lack like a legit big man because if you remember in the Eastern Conference Finals last season, they struggled to guard Bam Adebayo. Like they actually did a good job guarding Jimmy, and they did a good job guarding Goran Dragic, but they had a hard time guarding Bam Adebayo. So Robert Williams is a nice piece, but I don't think he's gonna be able to stop guys like Embiid, guys like Bam, guys like Giannis. So I feel like maybe if I had to answer the question, I'd say Boston, just because I feel like they need big man depth to really be a contender in the East.
Sa akin ano, maikli lang din, etong Atlanta Hawks. Yung Atlanta Hawks ngayon, kung titingnan natin team standings, pang-apat sila, no? So, medyo maganda yung pinapakita nila. Pero syempre, pagdating na ng playoffs, lalo-lalo na experience. Itong Atlanta Hawks, kung titingnan natin yung lineup nila, medyo bata pa, lalo-lalo na ito si Trae Young. Makapasok man sila sa playoffs, pero baka hindi rin na pumasok sa second round. So, I think ito pretender to, Atlanta Hawks.
So, para sa akin naman, agree ako kay Brokin, no? So, kung pumasok man din yung Atlanta Hawks, magkakaproblema sila sa roster nila, no? Kasi tignan naman natin kasi yung mga player nila, gaya nila Danilo Gallinari, mga injury prone. Then sila Bogdanovic. Then makikita natin dito siguro si Trae Young ang magraran ng opensa. Pero yung depensa nila hindi natin masisigurado kung talagang magiging solid ba sa playoffs or may magiging step up yung coach nila. Then ang makikita ko lang na opensa dito it's between Trae Young, John Collins, tsaka Clint Capela.
For me, Boston Celtics rin kung tama yung dinig ko kay kay D kasi Daniel Tice ba yun? Nawalan sila ng ng defender sa ilalim. Ang laki na nang in-improve nung player na yon since then na dati parang bench player lang siya pero binitawan nila si Daniel Tice. Tapos maganda nilalaro ni ni Jaylen Brown pero for me parang hindi nagko-complement yung laro ni Jason Tatum tsaka ni Jaylen Brown. Opinion ko lang 'yun kasi parang pareho sila ng posisyon. 'Yun yung nakikita ko. Then Kemba Walker injury prone tapos masyado siyang maliit. So nakikita ko yung mismatch when it comes to defense. Let's say makatapat nila yung Philadelphia 76ers, ang point guard mo si Ben Simmons. So what they're gonna do is magsuswitch sila. Possible si Shake Milton ba yun? Shake Milton ba yun? Yung babantayan niya. Heavy scorer din yung Milton. So sa akin yun yung nakita kong siguro pretender, si Boston Celtics.
Ayun, so we do have our valid points lahat with regard to our pretenders and contenders. And let's now move to the Western Conference. So for me, obviously, because of LeBron James, the experience of LeBron James, it will be the LA Lakers as my favorites for the contenders. So yun lang, experience-wise, I think talagang gagawin nila. And as of now, injuries, nagpapahinga, yung nagre-recuperate pa si Anthony Davis and si LeBron. And yung addition ni Andre Drummond, even though na-injured, I think it will be valuable pagdating sa playoffs. Kasi nga, nag-slow down yung laro pagdating sa playoffs and papasok ang experience ni LeBron James para sa akin doon, tsaka ni Anthony Davis. Again, barring injury or if they are healthy and yun, LA Lakers ang contenders ko. How about you, Sir Naveen?
Can I just say before I answer the question, the whole Andre Drummond experience is like the perfect explanation of the whole Lakers hype machine. Because the way the media was treating Andre Drummond when he signed the Lakers, they were
Like
acting as if
Kareem
Lakers,
Abdul-Jabbar.
the Lakers brought back Wilt Chamberlain. Like, how about the fact that this guy Andre Drummond has never been part of a team that's legitimately won anything in the NBA? How about the fact that he always gets good stats, but then when you actually watch him play basketball, he's really a negative on the basketball court just because he can't shoot free throws. He's not good on defense. He looks out of shape. But because he signed with the Lakers, it was like, oh, hey, Andre Drummond, the savior is here, right? He's reborn. But no, I will admit though na when it comes to the Western Conference, if the Lakers are healthy, I think they should be considered a favorite. Just because when you have LeBron James, when you have Anthony Davis, I think you have two of the five best players in the world when healthy, when they're 100%, when they're playing really well. And no one really in the West has that combination of a legitimately good wing player and a legitimately good big man. So you think of the other contenders in the West, right? You think of the Clippers, you think of the Nuggets, you think of the Jazz, you think of the Suns. Like none of those teams have like a legit small forward and power forward combination with size and physicality and pure talent like the Lakers do. Now, the potential problem I see for the Lakers is how far do they drop in the standings while LeBron and Anthony Davis are out? Because right now I think they're in danger of falling down to the 6, 7 range, especially since Dallas won against Dallas has been on a roll. Dallas has been on a winning streak. And if Dallas continues to rise and the Lakers continue to fall, because if you guys look at the Lakers schedule this next few weeks, medyo mahirap siya. They have some big games coming up and chances are they're gonna play these like tough games without both Anthony Davis and LeBron James. So is it possible that we see a Laker team in the play-in tournament? I mean, that would be one CTV in my opinion. But will fighting from a lower seed, not having home court advantage, will all of that like and having to catch up, like what if Davis and LeBron come back and they're not 100% healthy? So these are the potential problems for the Lakers. Now on the flip side is what if LeBron and Davis come back well rested? Because like if you notice the four teams who made the final four in the bubble, the Lakers, the Heat, the Celtics, the Nuggets, all of them struggled to start the season because sobrang short ng off season, right? It's only the Nuggets recently who have really caught up and started playing better. But the Lakers, even if they were playing good, they still got the injuries because of the fatigue, the exhaustion, the overtaxing. So will this give LeBron and AD the opportunity to rest and really recover and come back 100%? Because if they do, then who knows, the Lakers might be even better, even if they have to end up coming back from a lower seed. I really want to say I trust the Clippers, but I don't because I think the Clippers still lack like a legit point guard. Rondo is good, but I'm not sure. I feel like Rondo was really played really well in the bubble because he was teammates with LeBron, and I just don't trust the Clippers late game offense. For some reason, it looks clunky. Parang walang penetration eh. It's mostly like five guys playing outside, nagpapasahan lang. And anyone who's played basketball, even us, diba, here, like, when yung team mo, puro pasahan lang outside in the 3-point line, no one's attacking, then the shot clock is gonna die and the offense is gonna be bad. But I think the Clippers have a chance against the Lakers, although I'd still take the Lakers. And despite the injuries, despite everything, if I had to pick my best choice to come out of the West, I would still pick the LA Lakers.
So hindi ko nasimulan yung sinabi ni Bro Rain, pero I think Lakers yung sinabi niya. And for me naman, siguro sa akin is Utah Jazz. Hindi lang dahil nandun si Jordan Clarkson, that's why I support them and I think they will be good in the playoffs. But of course, they are a strong defensive team as well as explosive offensively. They are explosive offensively and I think yun yung mga kailangan nila sa playoffs. And I think Donovan Mitchell will be a great closer pagdating ng playoffs. I'm not saying nakasinggaling nila Damian Lillard, pero with the current lineup they have, that is good enough to make a championship run. And doon naman sa Lakers, I hope they will not fall that low, especially na parang matagal ata mawawala si LeBron James. Nakita ko kanina sa fantasy basketball ko, meron na nag-drop kay LeBron James. So I'm not sure kung meron bang news about LeBron James na sobrang tagal niya mawawala, and I think AD will also miss significant time. So we'll see. Pero yun nga, given that they are healthy, yeah, of course they are a contender, but for me, this is the year for the Utah Jazz.
Sa akin, Phoenix Suns. So, yung Phoenix, medyo matagal-tagal lang din nakapasok sa playoffs eh. I think 2009 pa, yung panahon pa ni Steve Nash. And nandiyan na ngayon si Chris Paul at ang ganda ng ginagawa ni Chris Paul dito sa Phoenix Suns. So parang ito nga si Chris Paul para sa akin game changer. At syempre yung supporting cast ni Chris Paul, yung top overall pick noong 2018 na si DeAndre Ayton, ganda rin ang pinapakita. And the rest, ang ganda na pinapakita. Kaya naman I think parang sila yung number 2 team dito sa Western Conference ngayon. At sa tingin ko, merong ibubuga itong Phoenix Suns pagdating sa playoffs.
Para sa akin naman, Denver Nuggets. So, syempre, nakikita naman natin yung laro ngayon nung si Nikola Jokic, no? So, number 1 din. Number 1 na ba siya sa MVP contender ngayon? Or
Number one siya sa fantasy.
I think he's number 1 in MVP race as of now.
So, nakikita ko naman na kayang-kaya na ni Nikola Jokic tsaka yung mga iba niyang kasangga katulad ni MPJ, ni Michael Porter Jr. So, gumaganda na yung laro niya. Nakakabalik na siya from, yun nga, nagkaroon siya ng injury. Then, nakita natin kung paano siya ngayon, sumalaksak sa loob and then may tira siya sa labas. Tapos yung addition pa ni Aaron Gordon. So, tingin ko magiging magandang run to para sa Denver. And then, si Nikola Jokic yung magiging main man. Sana makabalik na yung laro talaga ni Jamal Murray. Yung laro niya nung sa bubble.
Ako naman, I'll go with Lakers pa rin ako. With or without Andre Drummond, hype lang yun dumating like what sinabi nga ni Naveen. Parang mas maraming liabilities kasi kahit sa mga switching ng pick and roll, medyo maiiwanan Better pa nga siguro kung hindi nila nabitawan si Dwight Howard kasi si Mark Gasol medyo yung gamble nila doon hindi nag-pay off dahil hindi nagko-contribute pero given na si LeBron James tsaka si Anthony Davis makabalik agad, Lakers pa rin yan kasi kung game changer sa panahon ngayon, si LeBron James pa rin yung game changer tsaka yung mga teammates niya parang gumagaling rin pag playoff bron na tinatawag nila. So I'll go with pa rin with LA Lakers. Tsaka ako naniniwala ako this playoffs na maglalaro si Anthony Davis. Mas magaling siya ngayon kasi iba na yung kumpiyansa niya ngayon, nakatikim na ng championship. Yun lang, Lakers ako.
I think nabigay na natin yung contenders natin, and with regard to the pretenders, I actually agree with Naveen. It would be the LA Clippers for me. So agree ako doon na si Rondo, nakapaglaro lang siya. Mayroon tinatawag na playoff Rondo, pero ang laki ng epekto ni LeBron sa laro ni Rondo noong last year. And ang Clippers kasi bailout shot lagi kung papanoorin natin. Laging si Pandemic P laging titira sa corner 3 and hindi nagiging reliable yun pagdating sa playoffs. So analysis aside, bago lang I know na championship coach si Teron Lu, pero hindi naman mangyayari yun kung hindi si LeBron yung player niya nung time na yun. And kulang sa pyesa yung Clippers para sa akin. They are strong in paper, pero pagdating sa execution, I think they will be coming up short.
So sa akin naman, pretender ko sa West, Dallas Mavericks. Same reason ko rin sa Boston Celtics kanina. Tingin ko bench kulang din talaga sa pyesa. At the same time talaga, though magaling talaga Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, pero alam naman natin si Kristaps, injury prone. Kung matapos niya yung playoffs, would be better for them. Pero yun nga, kahit siguro matapos nila with Doncic and Kristaps, I think kulang pa rin.
Sa akin, sa tingin ko, walang pretender Dito sa West kasi parang lahat may shot. So hanggang 11th place, hanggang itong Golden State Warriors ngayon nasa 10th place. Pero sa tingin ko may chance pa rin sila. At till yung 11th place New Orleans, may chance din yan. Kaya sa tingin ko walang pretender. Itong mga nasa Western Conference, lahat ng team dito para sa akin, lahat yan may chance.
Para sa akin naman, eto matagal na kasing lumalaban talaga sa playoffs yung team na to. Pero para sa akin ito Portland Trail Blazers. So, siyempre, ang nagpapatakbo ng opensa nila si Damian Lillard, the logo. Then, kung titingnan naman natin yung lineup nila, walang halos pinagbago nung trade deadline, no? And then tinitignan ko parang hindi pa rin sila magiging contender ngayon sa West. And yun lang.
Pretender ko si Memphis. Kung ngayon tayo napapasok sila kasi kulang pa sila dahil si Ja Morant, alam natin na 2 to 3 years maybe magiging explosive talaga. Pero yun lang, yun yung nakikita ko sa West na pwedeng pretender kasi kulang pa sila talaga. Hilaw pa.
I think nakaka-apekto ba? Question ko lang sa'yo, bro, Romel. Si JJJ kasi injury. Tapos walang update yung yung
Jaren
kuwanan niya.
Jackson.
Ang tagal na, parang kailan ba yung last update? November daw babalik, pero anong petsa na?
Last
Parang
bubble sa na injury, last playoffs. Ay,
yung
bubble.
last update sa injury niya, parang wala talaga din. Ang sinabi na possible return niya is ngayong April and we're not sure about it kung talagang mangyayari. Do you think it's a big factor din talaga kung bakit ganun yung performance ngayon ng team ng
Oo,
MPs?
malaking factor yun Tsaka aside from that, nakikita ko na for me walang nagbago since last season na yung
And I
playoff
think si
run
Ja
nila.
Morant din, di ba? Parang first 2 games niya ata, sobrang ganda nung nilaro niya. Then after that, nagka-injury. So, yeah. I agree with your...
Kulang sa akin.
So guys, Sir Naveen, tatanong ko lang, ano po bang opinion nyo sa concept ng super team sa NBA?
Mm, I feel like na throughout the history of the NBA, madaming super teams if you really think about it. Like if you look at the old school Celtics in the 60s, that was a super team. The Lakers in the 70s were a super team with Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Wilt. And then in the 80s, the Lakers were stacked. Magic, Kareem, James Worthy, Michael Cooper. The Celtics had McHale, Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, DJ. And then 90s, the Bulls, they were a super team, diba, with Rodman, Pippen. So there's always going to be super teams. Even the Spurs, you could kind of say they were a super team, diba? But no one really thinks of them as a super team because their super team was kind of ingrown, homemade. But one of the constant formulas in the NBA is that over the years, the teams with the star players win the championships talaga. Like occasionally you'll have a Detroit Pistons team who's really good on defense, diba? Or like a Dallas Mavericks team who has like who have like a magical run for like a few weeks and then they upset like a contender. Or you'll have what team can I think about? Like you'll have the Houston Rockets, like sometimes 2 years magaling sila to win championship. But I can't blame any team for wanting to make a super team because it's a tried and proven formula to win NBA championships. Like the Miami Heat, but they had the big three. The Lakers with Shaq and Kobe was a super team because they were two of the best players in the NBA. The Spurs, like I said, were a super team. The Bulls. So at the end of the day, if you're a GM of an NBA team, if ikaw yung owner, you want as many star players in your team as possible. Because if you're winning, that means ticket sales mo maganda, merchandising sales mo maganda, broadcasting sales mo, plenty people are watching your team's games, diba? So if that's the recipe to getting all of that, then that's really one of the ways you should build your team.
Ayun. So I agree. Ngayon lang siguro kasi sa media rin lang naman nag-create ng hype and I don't think na yung Brooklyn is that strong. I know the na perennial all-stars si LaMarcus Aldridge and si Blake Griffin. However, they are in the twilight of their careers when they've been joined or they joined the Brooklyn Nets. Pero I think ang malaking kawalan sa kanila is Jarrett Allen. I think na napakagaling nun na center and defensive center and that's the thing that they are lacking. So siguro household name lang sila DeAndre Jordan pero with regards sa game itself mas makaka-contribute si Jarrett Allen for me. Mas importante and malaking kawalan para sa akin kasi dun sa defensive side nagkakaroon ng question ng laro ng Brooklyn Nets. Offensive firepower, we can't say enough. Pero pagdating sa defensive side of the ball, it's going to be a different ball game for them.
Sa akin agree ako kay Sir Naveen na nangyayari na noon, eh. So, para sa akin hindi na rin big deal yung mga super team ngayon sa NBA. And, lalong-lalo na ngayon na may mga sa isang team ang daming mga star player pero natatalo pa rin. So, it's not a big deal for me. I think, talagang, siguro ang, masasabi ko 'pag super team kapag magaling talaga yung coach at, nasa sistema ng coach 'yan at, ayun, hindi big deal sa akin yung, mga ang daming star player sa isang koponan. So,
Para sa akin, yung mga super teams, yun nga yung sa Brooklyn, yun tama naman si Sir Navin na yun, agree ako kay Bro Kino na nakadepende rin yan sa mga coach. Ito nga, lalo na kay Steve Nash, first year coach as Brooklyn Nets head coach. So titingnan natin kung maidadala ba talaga niya yung Brooklyn Nets sa finals at mapagcha-champion ba niya talaga. And then, syempre, tingnan natin kung ano yung rotation at yung sistemang gagawin niya sa playoffs kung sakali man papasok sa finals.
For me, concept ng super team is offense kasi yung nakikita ng ng karamihan eh. For me, opinion ko lang. Pag sinabing super team, anong papasok sa isip mo kagad? Offense. But for me, super team is a composition ng balance na lineup. Meron tayong role player, meron kang offensive player na talagang malupit, and then meron kang defensive players. Kasi super team, for me lang we have Lakers. Yung tripit ng Lakers. Pag tinignan mo yon, lalo pag bata ka, lakas ng Lakers, offense, lahat nandyan. Pero Kobe Bryant, defensive yan, player yan. You have Rick Fox, Robert Horry, and then Shaq. Sino bang kay Shaq? Tapos Golden State Warriors, masyadong prominent yung offense nila, pero pag tinignan mo ng maigi, ng mas malalim, ang lakas dumepensa. Klay Thompson, malakas din dumepensa yan. Draymond Green, anchor nila. Then Kevin Durant. Ito Kevin Durant, ewan ko pero hindi masyadong na-highlight yung defense ni Kevin Durant. Pero napakagaling ni Kevin Durant dumepensa. Whether team defense or individual defense. So for me, pag sinabi mong super team, offense and defense kompleto, tas role players. And then coach na rin syempre. Let's say San Antonio Spurs, 'di ba? Tapos yung Miami Heat, Dwayne Wade tsaka si LeBron, then Mario Chalmers. Talagang tsaka si Udonis Haslem, pati basta yung defense nila maraming offense and defense sa akin super team.
Sa akin, sorry, balikan ko lang yung sagot ko kanina. So hindi talaga si LeBron James yung nag-start ng super team. So matagal na talaga yan. And for me, there's nothing wrong with super teams. Kung kailangan talagang gawin para manalo, and then why not, diba?
parang sa PBA gano'n.
Yun, going back to that,
Super
Sir
PBA,
Navin,
yung PBA ibang usapan na yun pagdating sa
yun
super
sana,
teams.
yun sana yung
Kasi
follow-up
kasi kailangan mo din i-mention yung mga farm teams diyan
Sana yung
Ito,
follow-up question ko, Sir Navin.
Yeah.
Ano bang pinagkaiba ng super team ng PBA sa super team ng NBA?
Ay, nako. PG-13 or 18, ano yung classification natin dyan? Sige, don't get fired yung classification natin dyan. So sa NBA, super teams, you need to have like a good city that you play for. So LA, Miami, Golden State, San Francisco. These are nice cities, it's a kind of cities that high-key players want to live in, yung mga superstars. Like LeBron, he went to LA because he wanted to make movies, right? So that's like a benefit. In super teams, you also need to have good management, good coaches, a history of winning. When it comes to the PBA, I can really only think of 3 super teams. If your name is Ginebra, if your name is San Miguel, if your name is Talk and Text, then you are a super team. And if your team's name is not one of those 3, you are not a super team. It's as simple as that.
sa akin kasi ang nabanggit ni Sir Naveen, not a super team for me. Merong super boss.
Super boss, yeah. Because think about it, like in the NBA, every few years you have a new super team. Diba? Like right now, it's Brooklyn. Before Brooklyn, Golden State. Before Golden State, Miami. Before Miami, Boston, LA, diba? So parang turn by turn. Chicago, turn by turn yan But if you look at the PBA's history dating back to the 80s, 90s, San Miguel, Ginebra, then recently Talk and Text, and that's it. Diba? So, it's like the NBA pag super teams. Yan yung mga inuman session na, magme-mix ka, may whiskey ka, may beer ka, mag-gin ka minsan. Tapos sa PBA yung super teams, parang one drink lang yan. Like every time na manonood ka ng PBA, parang beer lang yan lagi. Usually San Miguel, di ba?
And I think sa NBA kasi yung mga players mismo, sila na yung nag-uusap-usap, doon tayo. We form a super team. Pero dito kasi sa PBA, alam naman natin, wala pang unrestricted free agent. So unfortunately for them, talaga nakabase lang sa teams. And yun nga, super teams, tatlo lang talaga.
Saka sasabihin sa'yo, di ba? Pag nandito ka, gaganda buhay mo.
PG-13 tayo for PG-13.
yung
Balik tayo sa
PBA,
NBA, may tanong ako rito kay Sir Naveen, ano? At speaking of, napag-usapan natin PBA, ito yung professional league dito, ano, sa Pilipinas. Do you think, Sir Naveen, realistic at may posibilidad ba na magkaroon ng isang NBA Asia? Possible ba itong NBA magkaroon ng branch dito sa Asia? Like NBA Asia, ganun?
Probably not. But who knows, maybe 30, 40 years from now when the world is more global. But if we're talking within the next 5, 10 years, maybe not. The most that the Philippines has had, actually, maybe China. Recently the China NBA relationship has had its challenges. But if you look at the China market and how big it is and the number of basketball fans there, if ever that the NBA does get into the Asian market in terms of, papagawa sila ng team, I would guess na most likely sa China yan because of the resources that the Chinese have. Guess lang yan, that's not reporting, that's just a guess. But who knows, maybe Japan one day, maybe Mexico, di ba? Meron na Mexico games, who knows, maybe South America, a country there. They already have a team in Canada, maybe Europe, who knows, di ba? Australia. But in terms of Asia and a legit NBA team, I don't think in our generation it's gonna happen. But who knows? I would be happy if ma-surprise ako.
Ay, second emotion sa'yo, sir. Gustong-gusto ko sana rin kasi yun yung mission nila, going to be global. Pero malaking factor kasi yung nangyari sa NBA and China relationship para sa akin. So nagme-mend, I think they're mending their bridges, pero as of now, siguro sa kaapu-apuan na natin mangyayari yun. Pero I hope marami namang emerging players ang Asian na pwedeng makapasok sa NBA. So I still think na gusto ko pa rin in my lifetime magkaroon ng NBA affiliate dito sa Asia.
Sa akin naman, yun nga, siguro na-share ko na rin to before. I don't think na possible ito. Especially na meron naman mga NBA Global Asia, and the reason naman kaya nila ginawa yun is for Asians or other countries na ma-elevate nila yung game at makapunta sa NBA, and yun pa rin talaga yung target is makapunta sila sa NBA. And kapag nakapunta sila sa NBA, that's the time na makukuha nila yung market ng Asian countries. Especially what if Kai Soto, for example, makapunta siya sa NBA. That's good enough para makapture mo na yung Philippine market. And even sa China, I think sikat din si Kai Soto. So makukuha mo na talaga yung market eh. You don't have to make another league para makuha yung market. And hindi ko alam kung gaano kalaki yung market ng Asia, pero considering na mas uunahin pa ba nila yung Asia kaysa sa Europe. So I'm not sure about the market, pero yun nga, I don't think na possible siya for now.
Nabanggit ni D Sports TV, no, si Kai Soto, at ito tanong ko lang uli kay Sir Naveen regarding Kai Soto. Sir Naveen, do you think just in case na ngayon magpapadraft si Kai Soto sa NBA ngayon 2021, may chance ba siya na makakuha ng isang NBA teams, o para sa iyo pwede mo nang wag mo nang madaliin, then pasok siya next year? Ano po yung opinion niyo, Sir Naveen?
I don't think he would get drafted kahit sa second round if magpa-draft siya in 2021. I think na if we're taking Kai's talents and judging it based on the Philippine or the Asian standards, then he's already one of the best players out there. But if you think about the competition he will have in the NBA, if magde-declare siya for the draft, if he's gonna try out the G League, even Europe, there's still a long way to go for him. I think he still needs to get stronger. I think his body still needs to develop. I think he still needs to improve yung lateral quickness niya when it comes to defending, especially because, see, in the Philippines, sanay tayo na yung big man defense is more of laid back yung big man in the paint, protecting the paint, block shots. But if you look at the Western way of playing basketball now, the big men need to be yung mga Bam Adebayo type, yung guys na who can guard point guards also, can guard shooting guards, and then can also guard big men. So if that's who we need Kai to be, for Kai to be a legit NBA player, then it's fair to say na malayo pa siya from reaching that. And he'll also have to improve his three-point shooting. He needs to have good touch near the rim. He needs to get stronger so he can score in post-ups. Now, with that said, I think it's fair and I think it's wise if we don't expect all this from Kai to happen right away, right? I can't remember how old he is, but he's not that old yet, diba? Nasa mga, is he like 19, 20? But whatever that age is, even if it's 18, 19, 20, 21, like I'm not sure how old you guys are, but I am 28 right now. And what I can remember is nung 19, 20, 21 years old ako, I wasn't ready to make big life decisions. Di ba? I was like parang learning my place in the world, trying to see who I am, like sino ka, sino yung tropa mo, sino yung mga kaibigan mo, like what do you want to do. There's so many things that kailangan mo pa i-discover at that age. So we should remember na even if Kai is technically a star already because of what he's done as a basketball player, he's also still a young adult, diba? He's still learning, he's still growing. So let's give him time to develop, diba? Let's give him time to improve his game. Let's give him time to improve his body. Let's give him time to grow mentally. And when the time comes na he's had that period to improve and that's good enough to make it to the NBA, then amazing. Let's root for him. Let's be happy for him. Let's not have high expectations, but let's hope for the best. And even if he does not make it to the NBA, let's not act like may kinuha siya sa atin. Let's not act like he let us down. Because the problem is like so many, and I've noticed this on social media, so many people are acting like, are putting like their happiness or their joy in what Kai can do. Pero tao lang si Kai, he's another guy. He should make decisions for himself. He should be independent. He should have the freedom to make decisions without the pressure of outside noise coming in or expectations or whatnot. And let's just be happy for him no matter what happens. Because honestly, for him to already get this far is already such a great accomplishment. And it's going to open the doors for future Filipino basketball players to do the same thing.
So speaking of Kai, Naveen, I'm not sure if you're aware or tama ba yung nababasa ko sa online kasi parang merong rumors na automatically qualified na daw talaga si Kai Soto kasi may pinirmahan siya na according to CBA nung pumirma siya ng kontrata sa NBA G League. So parang kailangan niya magpa-reclassify in case na hindi siya sasali sa draft. How true is this?
I can't report on that because to be honest, I haven't really researched information about it. But these contract situations, they can get really complicated sometimes. And the truth of the matter is when it comes to the contracts of basketball players or any industry, the public is not going to know all the details. Like what's revealed to the public is what's wanted to be revealed to the public, right? What I will say though is I wish Kai stayed in the G League bubble when he was there and didn't come home. And that doesn't mean like I'm being unpatriotic. Actually, I'm a Filipino citizen. I have a Filipino passport. I was born and raised dito sa Philippines. So, medyo Pinoy na din ako by heart. But honestly, I don't think it was the best idea to come back. I wish he had stayed in the bubble just because I feel like pagka-practice mo everyday players like Jalen Green and former NBA players, then yung coaches mo NBA coaches, I think if you stay in that environment, then naturally gagaling ka talaga. Naturally you're gonna improve because one of the most accurate sayings in life is you are who your company is, right? So sino yung mga kaibigan mo, who are the people you associate with every day. In fact, someone once said, I can't remember, sorry, but I saw in the video or I read in an article that the 5 people closest to you in your life will play a big role in determining the person you are, diba? So for me, I wish Kai stayed in the G League bubble because if he's around that environment, that people, kahit wala siyang minutes and in the actual games, even if he didn't have playing time, I just felt that practicing with those guys every day, learning like from the best coaches in the world, learning from the people he would go up against, like former NBA players like Lance Stephenson and Jeremy Lin. I think that would have really helped him develop his game.
Yep, 100% agree on that one. Yun nga lang, unfortunately, iba na yung nangyari. And let's just hope for the best kay Kai Soto. I think sa overtime league naman siya sunod na maglalaro. Hopefully talaga magiging successful pa rin naman.
Sure na ba yun? Overtime league?
I think wala naman siyang other options kasi sa NCAA hindi naman siya pwede maglaro since tumanggap na siya ng sweldo. Then we'll see. Kasi overtime, doon din naman lumalabas yung videos niya at the same time. Nasundan din talaga niya yung career, sinundan din talaga ng overtime yung career niya. So, possible.
Siguro, pag-pray na lang natin na sana maging successful si Kai Soto in the future at naniniwala naman ako na siya ang magiging kauna-unahang full-blooded Filipino na makakapaglaro sa NBA. At guys, may tanong pa kayo kay Sir Naveen?
I'm good na. Dami ko nang natutunan kay Sir Naveen.
Dami.
Apologies din Sir Naveen, medyo lumayo yung topic natin. Punta kay Soto. Pero thank you for entertaining that question.
No, okay lang. I'm happy to answer the question and I'm really happy to be a part of this. It was so much fun.
And maraming salamat po Sir Naveen at nabigyan niyo po kami ng opportunity na maging guest ka namin dito. Bihira lang po kami. Actually, first time kami magkaroon ng katulad niyo po dito sa aming podcast. Though kami mga maliliit na YouTuber lamang at ayun, napagbigyan niyo po kami. At thank you po talaga. Sobrang dami naming natutunan tulad nga po ng sabi ni Nash Basketball TV. At any message po sa mga nangangarap, sa mga viewers natin na gustong maging kagaya ni Sir Naveen Ganglani, na actually kami gusto namin kagaya mo, sir.
Or tips na lang din paano ba maging magaling na podcaster, tsaka ano ba yung
Sikreto.
yun talaga, life lessons kumaga.
Well, I can't pretend to be an expert, of course, but I will say, first of all, pala before anything, thank you again for inviting me here. And even if you said na YouTubers lang kayo, you shouldn't look at it that way because 10 years from now, YouTube is gonna be even bigger than it is. And if you start planting your tree now, eventually down the line, lalaki din yan. And whatever you guys are building, the fact that you're putting the work in, that it's your passion, that's a good sign of things to come. So keep it up. And my advice, I guess, to anyone is number one, follow your dreams. So if your goal is to write NBA, if your passion is football, if your passion is even like tennis or movies or TV, music, whatever it is, go for it. Don't let ever the world tell you who you should be. You tell the world who you want to be. My next piece of advice is the secret to, actually, let me share a story. So 2015, I went to interview Kobe Bryant in LA, and I remember I asked him, Kobe, what's the secret to success? This was after the interview this was after everything was done, no? So I was like, Kobe, what's the secret to success? And I remember he told me, and I'll never forget this, sabi niya, the secret is there is no secret. It's just hard work. So it was such a Kobe line, diba? Pero it makes sense. And ultimately, what he's trying to say is the secret is consistency. So you just have to be consistent as much as you can. You know, if there are days na pagod ka, if there are days na lazy ka, just tell yourself na pushing yourself to do work, to grind, to keep hustling, it will pay off in the future. And trust it will pay off in the future. And another thing that I want to say to anyone who wants to like stand out in media or pursue a career in media, whether that's podcasting, writing, video, it's don't be afraid to stand out. Don't be afraid to be unique. You know, let your personality shine, show and share who you are to the world, because the best way to enjoy what you're doing and to be good at it is to be your most unique self, because that way you're staying loyal and true to who you are. You're staying true and loyal to your personality, and if you do that, then trust me, you will enjoy. You won't even think so much about, how much money you're making, how many views you're getting, or whatnot, because at the end of the day, ginagawa mo yung anong gusto mong gawin. And if masaya ka, if you're able to sleep properly at night, then that's all you can ask for.
So ayun guys, napakaganda nga mensahe from Sir Naveen. Hindi lang NBA insider, kundi isang motivational speaker pa. So thank you so much sa lahat ng ating mga viewers ngayon sa ating special episode ng Last 2 Minutes Podcast. At hopefully, hindi ito yung last na mabibisitahin tayo ni Sir Naveen dito sa ating Last 2 Minutes Podcast. Hopefully, may mga next episode pa na makakasama natin si Sir Naveen, lalo-lalo na kapag usapang NBA. So sa mga viewers natin, maraming salamat sa inyo. At ako nga pala si Kino ng From the Sideline.
This is Nash Basketball TV.
This is Sports Icon PH.
Dahil wala na si Boleros, we're closing this podcast. Maraming salamat.